Good evening, everybody. I will call the August 16th meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Council members Abel.
Here.
Dennison.
Here.
Droz.
Here.
Lombardo.
Here.
And Mayor Schooler.
Here. The council met in closed session just at 5:30 this evening, and do we have a report out of from the town attorney?
Sure, thank you. The town council met in closed session with respect to the one item that is on the closed session agenda. There is no reportable action on that item, and that concludes the report.
Thank you. If you'll all stand and join me in the pledge, Councilmember Lombardo is going to lead us.
Please stand and place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will begin. We've got a series of presentations this evening. The first will be a presentation, Tri-Valley Little League's program update.
Thank you. There we go. That's better. Jennifer Cusack, President, Tri-Valley Little League, and
I'm Paul Hoffman, the facilities manager.
past president and does it all, We had a great season this year.
Yeah, we did.
Thanks to Paul and the town of Yucca Valley. We had 509 kids this spring. We took a number of all-star teams. I don't have the exact number, but we brought back 3 flags. So we had a really great season. It was a lot of fun. The fields look great. So we really wanted to just say thank you to the town for investing in our kids. And we want to thank and give you a certificate for your staff, presented to the town of Yucca Valley Park maintenance staff for your dedicated service to maintaining safe and beautiful ball fields for the youth of Yucca Valley and surrounding communities served by Tri-Valley Little League. And do you want to say a few words about the park staff?
I just want to thank the staff for being there. It takes a team to make a job get done. They were there every time I needed them, and without their help, we would not have been able to accomplish the things that we needed to do to make the park safe for the kids to play on. All my congratulations to them, and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. It's been a great season and a great partnership over at the fields, it feels like.
Thank you. And I will add, we did host 2 all-star tournaments. We hosted the minor District 58 tournament and for baseball and the senior softball tournament. And we received compliments from the communities that came and played on our fields, from Yucca, who's typically hosted baseball, and from the softball. They were just really impressed with the fields and the quality of the grass. So the second certificate we have is presented to the town of Yucca Valley Community Services staff for your dedicated service, coordinating the use of the fields for the youth of Yucca Valley and surrounding communities that we serve. So I want to also thank them because we sent them countless emails, called them, bugged them, lights, everything we needed. They helped us. And so thank you very much. So we'll leave that with clerk. So thank you again.
Could you tell us a little bit about your program? I think you had a pretty successful year just in numbers, and just give us a little bit of an update on that.
Sure. So 509 kids played. We had 45 teams, each played about 12 games. And so we played on almost every ball field in town. They were booked. We played Monday through Saturday. We kind of avoid Sundays, but used the fields for practice at MUSD. MUSD opened up their fields to us. We were able to even play some ball games on their softball field. So it's a great partnership with them as well. We had a lot of great coaches, a lot of great volunteers. 4 gentlemen that helped Paul every morning. They'd arrive early, and they spent about 4 hours a day prepping the ball fields, dragging and getting it ready so that the coaches just had to show up and chalk. And that's a tremendous help because, games are at 5:30. The coaches are able to show up, warm up the kids, and then just chalk the fields, and they're safe and ready to play. We have a number of our board members that can't be here tonight, but they helped us. We also have a board election next week. So we encourage the community to attend. It's on our website. If you are a volunteer, you can vote for the current board. If you're not a volunteer, you can apply to be a member and then vote or join the board. We need more volunteers. Anything else you want to add?
No.
And we have awesome umpires and, great volunteers and just trying to make the program strong again. I think we've had really positive feedback, just making sure it's safe and everybody's following the rules.
Well, thank you. It seems like a great bounce back from the COVID years, and you guys did a great job, so congratulations to you and your board.
Thank you. We couldn't do it without the town.
We'd like the council members to come out and umpire a game, okay?
Yeah, we need more umpires.
That'd be trouble. I can't.
Just be nice when we come out.
Can I say something?
Yeah, we're accustomed to Miracle League, and we call everybody safe over there. So.
Can I just say a little?
Oh, I'm sorry, sure.
Jennifer and Paul, we should be giving you certificates. You've been involved in community things for so many years, and your example is one for others to follow. Thank you so much for your love and care for the community and the kids that you serve. Thank you.
Any other council members? Okay, introduction of new employees. Curtis?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If I could ask Arrow Fay and Andy Ramatko to join me up front, please. Mayor and Council, it's always a pleasure to stand before you and introduce new team members to the organization. I'm going to start out with Arrow to my right. Arrow has recently come on board with the town as a part-time kennel technician. In the somewhat recent past, she relocated from New Mexico to Yucca Valley, and she has been studying to go into the veterinarian world, whether it's to start out as a veterinarian assistant or technician, and who knows how far she will go in the process. It's really interesting during the interview the last question we have of every interview is, do you have any questions of us? And I believe she actually asked more technical questions of us than we did of her in the process. So we were being interviewed to find out if she really wanted to come to work for us. And I think it was positive because she made the decision to be here. So it's with great pleasure this evening that I'd like to introduce Arrow to the council and the community.
Thank you. Hello. Sorry, I'm a little bit tall. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to work in this field. It has given me a lot of on-hand experience working with animals, and I love my job. I love all my coworkers, and I am happy to be performing playing such a vital part in the community through animal control and at the shelter.
Thank you.
Andy Ramatko, some of you may recall Andy from working here part-time back between 2014 and 2017. We didn't have a full-time position available at that time, and Andy was looking for full-time work, so he had jumped down to the low desert, was working for a property maintenance, property management company, and when the full-time position opened back up in Yucca Valley, Andy threw his hat into the ring. So Andy came on board recently as our lead facilities maintenance worker, full-time. It's a pleasure to have him back. He's very familiar with the organization, the buildings, the processes, the standards. So it's great to welcome back a member of our team, Andy.
All right, thank you, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be back with the town of Yucca Valley. My second stint around with the facility and maintenance department, and I couldn't be happier. We work with a great crew. We do a great deal of work for our community to make this place better and keep this place clean for you guys, and I'm looking forward to a long time of serving you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome to both of you. And we have a recognition of a retiring employee. This is always a mystery to see who's retiring. We don't know that.
It's a mystery. Mayor and council members, we would like to invite Candy Drake up to the podium. Mystery's over.
Got it?
Stop it. Candy started her employment at the town on December 1st, 1998. That's right, 1998. That's whopping 23 and a half years of service to the town and its residents. So many customers, so many programs, so much joy in the community. Rough numbers, and these are conservative. I mean, I'm talking 160 concerts hosted, 5,000 plus Santa letter responses. You know, I don't. 460 youth commissioners mentored, 23 holiday craft fairs featuring over 1,100 vendors. I mean, it's incredible, really. The breadth of work, stunning, 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 all at, you know, top-notch quality. And when I started working here, every year I noticed that Candy would take her vacation time in December. Why? So she could volunteer for Tender Loving Christmas. Every year, not just like one, every year. Insane. It was incredible. She always asks you how your family's doing. She remembers every single thing about them. She's always thinking about others, caring. She's always caring for a friend or a relative or even a stranger. So she's just always doing something for others. And in our department, one of the other things that caught my eye when I first started working with her, she has insane intuition. So there's something Jedi about her. You know, maybe it's her days of, you know, high school, you know, yard duty or something like that. But she has radar. She notices every detail. She can tell if you're lying. She can tell if an entertainer is going to give us trouble or a coach is going to go off. She just has this, you know, this radar that's so impressive and really fun to watch. So Candy, you're a rock star in our department, and I hope you enjoy your well-deserved retirement, time with your family, plenty of R&R. If you get bored, of course, you're welcome to come back and lend us a hand anytime, but just a stunning breadth of work for the town, so much service, and so many memories built because of Candy's work. So I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I'm going to like being retired, but I'm hoping that in 6 months, if I don't like being retired, that there's an opening, and I will be back to do all those fun things again. And I thank you. You guys are all like family, every one of you. You're amazing. You've taken really good care of me. And I got to stop because I'm going to cry. So I love you all.
All right.
Hey, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind presenting and reading the plaque, that'd be great for Candy up there.
Super. Get Jim up here. Jim probably wants to say a few words.
Jim was my first boss.
That's right. Jim.
This has been a while.
You know, right?
Okay. It's my pleasure to present this to Candy Drake with sincere gratitude for your professionalism and commitment, excuse me, and commitment providing 23 years of excellent service to the town of Yucca Valley and the community. Wishing you all the best in your retirement. Dated the 16th day of August, 2022.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys again.
Okay, this next item is a proclamation regarding Purple Heart Town declaration. This proclamation says, whereas the town of Yucca Valley, the Yucca Valley Town Council and the community have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have and are selflessly serving their country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women from Yucca Valley who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our residents. And whereas many citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart Medal in recognition of being wounded or killed while engaged in combat with enemy force, construed as singularly meritorious act of essential service. And whereas the town of Yucca Valley seeks to remember and recognize the many recipients of the Purple Heart Medal. Now therefore, the Yucca Valley Town Council hereby proclaims Yucca Valley as a Purple Heart Town, so designated, honoring the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women in uniform, wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect the freedoms enjoyed by all Americans. Presented this 16th day of August, 2022. Thank you. Okay, move on to the approval of the agenda. May we have a motion to that effect?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mayor, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Abel.
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Droz.
Yes.
Lombardo.
Yes.
And Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine matters or formal documents covering previous town council instruction. Items are enacted by one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comment on the consent agenda items should be filed with the town clerk. Is there any council member that would like to pull an item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 16 for further discussion. I'd recommend to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 16, any others? And I will entertain a motion. Oh,
Any public comment on consent calendar items? Did you already answer public comment?
okay, is there any public comment on consent
Except,
items, except for item 16? Okay. Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve
I'll
items
second.
up to number 15? Excluding number 16, right?
Yeah, I'll second
You
it.
making the motion?
I think he made the motion when he said pulling 16 and approving the remainder. So I will second that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, and we have a second on that, so.
Councilmember
Mayor Pro Tem
Dennison
made the
and
motion,
Lombardo.
Councilmember Lombardo, second.
Councilmembers Abel.
yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Droz.
Yes.
Lombardo.
Yes.
And Mayor Schooler.
Yes. So we will move on to item number 16. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Town Council and Mayor. Item number 16 is the Jacobs Park Court Conversion resurfacing and court conversion. The recommendation is that the Town Council accept the recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission for the temporary conversion of one tennis court at Jacobs Park to 4 pickleball courts for a period of 2 years. Pickleball is increasing in popularity with town residents. However, there's only a single pickleball court in the park system located at Paradise Park. Jacobs Park features 4 tennis courts that are utilized by town tennis players and the local tennis organization, the Morongo Basin Tennis Association. These courts are scheduled for resurfacing and restriping this September, so coming up very soon. Due to the increased inquiries about and public interest in pickleball over the past year, the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission was asked to consider if the town should convert a single tennis court to 4 pickleball courts to provide access to pickleball until additional court space can be provided. Staff invited the Morongo Basin Tennis Association, tennis users, and pickleball users to the commission meeting to provide input and information about their personal park use. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission met on August 9th and listened to public comment on the matter. After consideration and discussion, the commission unanimously voted for the temporary conversion of 1 tennis court at Jacobs Park to 4 pickleball courts for a period of 2 years, in accordance with their desire to further implement the broader goals of the town's recreation master plan. If the town council is in agreement with the PRCC recommendation, you may wish to also further direct staff to add the development of additional pickleball space to the strategic plan priorities. That concludes the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions after public comment.
Thank you, Sue. We are going to move on to public comment on this item. First, I would like to thank everybody that has participated in this discussion, and we welcome your comments on both sides of the issue or all sides of the issue. We do want to note that we have a lot of respect and confidence in our commissions and committees appointed by the town council, and we know that the commissioners volunteer their time, work really hard, do a lot of homework, and we will appreciate everybody showing respect for their motion and be respectful of the other opinions that may not be consistent with your own. So with that, we will move on to public comment. And do you have, Town Clerk, do you have some speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. We have several requests to speak on this item. First is Ron Fortna, and then followed by Bianca Stoker. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Schooler, Town Council members, and town staff. I'm Ron Fortin with the Morongo Basin Tennis Association. The Morongo Basin Tennis Association Board of Directors is opposed to the court conversion to a pickleball court. However, we will support the conversion to 2 pickleball courts if no construction is done, so that in 2 years the court can be converted back to a tennis court by resurfacing and reapplying tennis court lines. In our discussions with town officials, we understand the town is using the approved court resurfacing project as a short-term solution to add more pickleball courts. The goal is to convert the court back to a tennis court when the long-term solution is found for pickleball courts. We understand the conversion is not a construction project, but only a resurfacing of the court being converted and lines applied for pickleball play. Due to the concrete slab and fence configuration of the tennis court, it is my understanding that the conversion will need to be for 2 pickleball courts. A conversion to 4 pickleball courts would create a safety issue of fence proximity to the pickleball courts. We understand there may be holes drilled into the court for pickleball nets as a means of securing the nets to prevent theft and damage. We would prefer a dual-use court, but we understand the issues with net removal and storage, and may make this most likely a dedicated pickleball courts. If a decision is made to convert the court to 4 pickleball courts, we request that the Tennis Association be contacted and informed of the decision. The conversion will provide the pickleball community with 3 courts and the tennis community with 3 courts, a suitable compromise for the short term. Our organization will improve our scheduling to accommodate this change. We ask the tennis community and the pickleball community to be respectful of the town council's decision on this matter. We ask both communities to be respectful of the other players' chosen athletic activity. Remember, even though we chose different sport communities, we are all neighbors in this desert community in which we live. Oh, and we do look forward to playing on newly resurfaced courts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bianca Stoker, followed by Linda Higginson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bianca Stoker. I just came here today to talk about pickleball and how it's had an effect on my life. My husband and I started playing this new sport earlier this year, January or February, and quickly became very addicted. Prior to this, I was not athletic at all, never been part of any sport other than track in elementary school, and getting outside for our family and being active was always a struggle. When we discovered that there was a pickleball court in Paradise Park, we were able to take our family there, and we've been going almost every night since January, weather permitting, having our kid run around the playground with other kids, us being able to play for several hours a day has changed our life. We're no longer sitting in front of the TV every night. And it just feels so good to find something that we can play together and that involves our friends and family, because we play with a lot of friends, and we've gotten some family members into it too. So please, we are asking for more pickleball courts. At the time, right now, we have one court which can serve 4 players at a time, and we routinely have 10-plus players waiting on the sidelines to use the court. The additional courts would make it so that we can play more effectively, more games at the same time, and be able to involve our kids as well, because they are showing interest, and we are too selfish to grant them the time on the court that they would like to spend. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Linda Higginson, followed by Steve Renegar.
Hi, my name is Linda Higginson, and I am a board member of the Morongo Basin Tennis Association. I'm very upset, mad, and frustrated by the actions of the Park, Recreation, and Cultural Commission. It is my understanding that the conversion of one tennis court in Jacobs Park has been in the works for at least the past 3 months, yet the Morongo Basin Tennis Association was not notified of this change until 4 days before the commission's meeting. This was totally unfair to the tennis community. But despite this, we were able to gather a large group of people to attend the meeting. Also, of the 18 letters written to the commission, 16 of them were from the tennis people, asking them not to convert the tennis courts. We gave our reasons, concerns, and even offered other options. I felt that we were completely ignored by the commission, and the commission was biased, considering that Sue Ernest and some of the members of the commission were pickleball players. I was also under the impression that our letters would all be read aloud to the commission if we chose not to speak. That did not happen. Most of the tennis players in our association are not opposed to pickleball. Many of them have tried it and enjoyed it. That's why we are so upset that no one came to talk to us about helping them find more courts to play on. Several members of your board have indicated to us that they knew nothing about this conversion. Some of them have offered other suggestions on how we can all work together to find courts for the pickleball players without interfering with the tennis players, especially our youth program, which you help fund. I realize that resurfacing the courts is coming up in September. Maybe we should postpone that until we can work things out and come to a compromise. To redo the courts at Jacobs Park, as Sue Ernest has proposed, will take an additional $25,000. Where is that money coming from? Again, there are other ways to get pickleball courts rather than taking a tennis court at Jacobs Park. If Sue Ernest has a good relationship with the Yucca High School, why not use one of their courts, since pickleball is an up-and-coming sport? Another suggestion was to use the courts at Macris Park to make a pickleball courts. Also, what about the basketball courts at Paradise Park to make your 4 pickleball courts? What about just making, as Ron Fortner said, the 2 pickleball courts from what about making just 2 pickleball courts from the 1 tennis court so they can easily be converted back and forth from tennis to pickleball? Making it into 2 pickleball courts would cut back on the noise level and allow tennis to continue on the other courts. Let us work together to find a positive solution to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Renegal, followed by Clint Stoker.
I decline.
And you don't want to speak, right? Okay.
I am 100% in favor of what Linda just said.
Okay. So Mr. Renegal is in opposition. Mr. Stoker?
Hi, how you doing? Clint Stoker. I live in Yucca Valley. There's obviously some passion on every side of this discussion tonight. And let's be frank, it's not about 4 courts in our town versus 1 pickleball court to play on. The Tennis Association represents the entire valley, and in the entire valley, we don't have 4 tennis courts to play on. We actually have 8 tennis courts to play on. We have 2 in Joshua Tree, 2 in Morongo, and 4 here. In the entire Morongo Basin, there's 1 place to play pickleball. And sadly, that court, even by the admission of some tennis folks that I've talked to, is really a sad excuse for a court as it is. Safety is my paramount issue when we're playing, and currently we don't have a safe place to play. We understand that there's issues with not being able to have as many courts for a youth program, but the compromises as put up by the town staff were kind of overlooked by some of the members, one of which is now, I don't think, even a member of the board anymore. There's talk of having compromises. However, the real only compromise that's been put up is stay out of our area. And while that is, I guess, a compromise, I would ask any tennis player to go play tennis on a basketball court without a fence to hold back the ball when it goes by someone. It's going to disappear into the middle of the desert, and that's already what we're dealing with now, is the fact that we don't have a fence around our court. We have a foot of concrete on either side of the line, so you're stepping off into the dirt, stepping onto plants and shrubs, and it's just generally not a safe environment to play. The more that we learn and develop the game and become better players, the more competitive we are, which is great, and every person that plays any sport does their best to become more competitive as you learn. However, the more competitive we get with a court that's unsafe to play on means we're putting ourselves in farther closer to injury. I don't know. And it's like, it sucks to say last night, but last night we were playing, I jumped for a ball that I probably should have just let go, ended up in the grass, twisted my leg, and I went home, and that was it. And I don't like that. I don't like failing because the court failed me. And that's the big problem, I think, is we wouldn't ask any tennis player to go play on a piece of concrete that has cracks and holes, or they'd slip and fall. They deserve a surface to play on that's an actual surface, and I think so do we. So I look forward to working together to find a new place to build some more courts in the future. But I think for now, this is a stopgap that'll give everyone a place to play that's safe. Thank you.
Kendall Schmeling, would you like to read your letter? Are you here?
Oh.
Okay, guys, bear with me. I'm not used to doing this. I came to Yucca Valley in 1983. The lower courts, Jacob Park, there were only 2 courts there. They were bare cement. They were full of cracks. They were very flawed. 39 years later, we have 4 courts. We have junior development programs. We have youth tennis. We even have adult programs. And then Gideon Smith, whom we honored at the last meeting, got a huge grant from the U.S. Tennis Association that partially funded the upper courts. So that's why we have 4 courts now, because of Gideon and the USTA. But the main point is pickleball and tennis are not compatible. Pickleball courts are oriented from the west to the east. Tennis goes from south to north. There's only a little 4-foot fence separating the 2 courts. They're going to be hitting in, 4 different courts are going to be hitting in to a tennis court. I don't see how that's possible. Also, tennis requires a lot of focus and concentration. I'm not putting pickleball down, but because of the hard ball and the solid paddles, there's going to be a lot of noise. And how can you play tennis? Or if you had an instructor trying to teach the kids, they usually take two courts, but if you crowded them into one, how are they going to be able to defeat all that noise and communicate and keep their junior development programs going? And there's a shuffleball court up there in Jacobs Park. I don't think anyone's ever played shuffleball on it, and maybe that's a possibility. There are two full-size basketball courts at Paradise Park, okay? The measurement of these courts is 50 feet by 96 feet. Tennis is what, 42 by 78 or something? So you'd have plenty of room there, and you've got to redo those courts for the pickleball guys because their court needs attention. So, okay, that's probably it, huh? So anyway, I just hate to see tennis get thrown under the bus. There's got to be another solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's all the requests to speak that I have. We do have 3 in attendance today that are in opposition but do not wish to speak.
Okay.
And there were several public comments received prior to the meeting, which was distributed to the council members and are available up front for the public.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the room, in the public? John? Please state your name and community of residence.
My name is John Viola, and I live in Yucca Valley. And I've been a resident in the Morongo Basin since 1980 and an active person involved in the tennis community. My message here is that the prudent, I think, decision here is to step on the brake pedal and to pause and take a closer look. And I'll tell you the reasons why. The commission staff report that they prepared was well prepared, and it went through some of the possibilities of 2 courts versus 4-court conversion and so on. But there are some important things that the report didn't address. It didn't address the safety issue of putting 16 players on a court that was designed to be safely operated by 4 players. It didn't address the issue of a slow-moving, soft-hitting ball being played adjacent to a hard-hitting, fast-moving ball. The staff report did not address possible insurance or liability issues that the town may incur. The justification for the recommendation appeared to be other communities have done it. There was no supporting data comparing those other communities' experience or equipment or use as compared to our community. The staff report was silent on the 4 courts at Jacobs Park, 2 of which were funded by the matching grant to the United States Tennis Association. There was no mention of whether or not the United States Tennis Association was discussed in this process, and the USTA had some further interest in developing more tennis courts in this area that were in discussion back in 2015, which at the time the town was not interested in doing. The proposed 2-year conversion is based on the pickleball courts that are supposed to be a part of the town's master plan of the gymnasium. And that plan is referred to as a high priority in the near future. This plan was developed more than 3 years ago. So here we are talking about a 2-year temporary conversion of a plan that was developed 3 years ago that was supposed to be high priority and near. The the staff report did not address the $500,000 of Measure Y funds that are allocated for 22-24 for capital improvement in parks and recreation, nor did it address the additional $500,000 of Measure Y funds allocated for capital project contingencies for future identified improvements and maintenance. The staff report did not discuss any investigation of shared use potential with the existing indoor facilities at the Boys and Girls Club or the Morongo School District gymnasiums at Yucca Valley High School. I hope I can finish in just a moment. My concern here is due diligence may have been lacking, and this rushed recommendation dovetailing the court conversion with the resurfacing of the Jacobs Park tennis courts may be, I'm sorry, I lost my place. I trust that the town council members know that a rushed project often leads to big mistakes. The tennis community understands and supports pickleball as a rapidly growing sport that has capacity to introduce people to athletics. Pickleball players deserve the town's thought consideration to develop adequate and safe resources for the current and future Yucca Valley pickleball players. Thank you for your time, and I do have copies of this if you'd like to have them. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to comment on this issue? We've got a couple. Please come to the podium. Excuse me, state your name and community of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Joe Borghese, Yucca Valley, District 5. And I just want to briefly state my opposition to the rather hasty conversion of the tennis court into pickleball courts. I'm all for having additional recreation facilities here in Yucca Valley. We all know that we really need additional recreation facilities here in Yucca Valley. But I don't think that we should be taking from one sport to be able to give to another. I think we need to develop a dedicated pickleball facility which is in good use and adequate for their sport as well. So thank you very much.
I believe there was one more.
Hello, I'm Nathan Prusso, live in Yucca Valley. I'm in favor of converting the one tennis court into 4 pickleball courts as a temporary solution for a couple years. We discussed in the last meeting. Just wanted to piggyback on a couple of things that some of the other pickleball players had mentioned just earlier this evening. The main thing that pickleball has really affected me, how it has affected me, it's really changed my life, my family's life, and I'm seeing it change people that I'm just meeting. It's pretty amazing. It's a very simple sport to play. It's actually very competitive. It's easy to learn, and yeah, so there's those things. We're finding that the more that we're kind of growing this community, the more people they want to play, and we're not able to actually play as much as we'd like to. A lot of us work down the hill, we get home, it's late, we can do a quick pickup game. We have only one court to do that on. So it's very important to be able to have more courts to really just meet the need of what we're seeing. And this is just in the past 6 months that I've been playing. And I can only imagine it's going to grow exponentially. What I just wanted to actually see if, so you guys could see the support that we have for pickleball players. If everyone that's in favor of pickleball would stand up. And, it's not an overwhelming amount, but there's people here that's very important to us, and we wanted you to see that. So thanks for your time. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak on this issue? Yes. Please state your name and community residence. You have 3 minutes.
I'm not very good at this. My name is Lisa Henry. I live in Joshua Tree. I've been a resident, or I moved to Yucca Valley in the early 80s, and I started playing tennis. And as they talk about pickleball, I can say the same thing about tennis. It changed my life totally. And I've been playing for 49 years now. And there's a large community of tennis players here. And I count 8 pickleball players, 9 pickleball players here. And I don't like wasting money, and if I understand, it's going to cost $25,000 to change the tennis court for up to 10, I'm going to give them credit, 20 pickleball players for a temporary 2-year period, and then we're going to spend that same kind of money turning it right back? Is that just not wasting our taxpayers' money? Why don't we put it in a more permanent solution, more permanent court? And Macris tennis court, totally vacated, is a perfect place to put that $25,000, and add what you would have paid to change it back over to pickleball. They can have their 4 courts up there. Doesn't take a whole lot. Got some lighting, you got some fencing, resurface it. You don't have any problem with neighbors complaining because housing is over 600 yards away. Anyway, that's just my point, and I love tennis, and I'm actually looking forward to playing pickleball with my husband. He's handicapped, and I think it's a sport that he and I can both do together. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak on this item? Is there anybody online? No? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. I would like to kick this off a little bit. We appreciate everybody coming out and talking on this issue. We had a coffee with the mayor's session this morning and fairly spirited discussion about this item. And I think we all agreed at that table that this is a recreational activity we're talking about. This is what people do in their spare time. It's not an issue that should be dividing a community by any stretch, them versus us. I wanted to go first on this because I have a little bit of background. Full disclosure, I was the director of Parks and Recreation in the town for a lot of years. Actually spent 30 years of my career as the Park and Rec guy in Yucca Valley. So I go back with the MBTA, and there is a little bit of misinformation there seems to be, but I go back to Jim Boyle, who started it up way back when. And I remember when Jim Boyle started it up, we had 2 courts, as was noted, 2 very substandard courts over at, we called it High Desert Park at the time, now Jacobs Park. And those were the lower courts. They were asphalt, they puddled, we had low spots in them, so we had to squeegee off the water a lot of the time. There were some potholes in it that had to be patched from time to time, but we still went out there and made it work. And we ran tournaments on those 2 courts. The lighting was substandard, the fencing was substandard. Windscreens was only a luxury that we dreamed about at that point, but the association got started, and it was a good group. Everybody got along, and we, like I say, we had tournaments. We would overflow our tournaments to the Yucca Valley High School courts. We would go borrow them for a weekend. We even used people's private home courts for tournaments. We would send people up to some of the homes that had a private court and work that into our tournaments. So it's pretty interesting history that tennis has in this community, and Jim Boyle and Norma Lee Boyle were so instrumental in getting the association started back when. Gideon came along at some point, and the baton got passed along to him, and we all know what a stellar individual Gideon was, and a champion of tennis and youth programs. I'd like to just get a little bit of clarification at this point. Gideon was instrumental in getting USTA money for our project up there when we added those courts, but if I can ask staff for clarification, what was the contribution of USTA to that project?
So the USTA contribution that the town received was back in 2005 for the project that was ultimately delivered in 2009, which was the south courts closest to Onaga, including a ball wall. So there's 2 courts and a ball wall. That total project was just under $500,000. The USTA contribution that the town recorded back in 2005 was $2,500, $2,500 toward that project.
Okay, appreciate that. There has been some misinformation going around about that, but we were grateful for the contribution. It was noted and appreciated, and we were hoping for further relationship with USTA at the time, but the contribution was not the amount that people seem to think it was. So thank you for that clarification. Also, I'd like to highlight a little bit of the town's support for Morongo Basin Tennis Association over the years. We did work together to get windscreens. Gideon was a champion of this. He would kind of come to my office back in the day and point out the needs, and we'd talk about it. And in those days, there was precious little money to be passed around. Windscreens were expensive, but necessary. We lived without them for a long time. We finally got some windscreens. We eventually got to rebuild the lower courts down there, which was miraculous. I think we went through two resurfacing projects before we did get to rebuild them, because there was a water issue underneath or something, and it just kept coming up, and we kept having puddles and issues with water. With MBTA, like Curtis mentioned, we were able to construct the ball wall for tennis. We made the parking lot to accommodate tennis players. There was a playground there back in the day, as you know, up there where the parking lot is now. And we put in the parking lot and the restroom to accommodate tennis players. So that was another concession and not a concession, kind of a project that we did as a result of the request of MBTA. We also opened up the community room for tennis instruction, and Gideon had a program called Winning, where he taught kids tennis, and he also taught them public speaking, and he had pizza parties in there. And so we made that building available to him as kind of a tennis center. His vision was that that park would be a tennis center, and he did what he could to make that happen. The town allocated CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funds, several times to tennis court projects, and that helped fund the improved courts and the court improvements that we were just talking about. I remember going down to the Indian Wells Tennis Garden with Gideon once to solicit support and to tout his program. And he was well received. It was just a pleasure to work with Gideon. He was such a good guy, as you all know, and so devoted to tennis, and his legacy will live on. But he was very easy to work with, very humble, very compassionate kind of a guy, and really a champion for tennis, and kept it alive all those years. I also wanted to highlight, because of the position I was in, a couple of things. The transition from one recreational activity to another is not unusual. We have gone through several iterations in Yucca Valley over the years. We shared use facilities and converted use facilities. This is not a new concept. It's something that even before we had a Parks Master Plan was carefully considered, but had to be done because of changing times. Flag football at one point gave way to soccer. This was a flag football community when I came to town, and soccer, nobody wanted to hear about soccer. Soccer, we introduced that, and soccer took off, and eventually flag football just didn't get the numbers. Families preferred to play soccer, and soccer fields were now built when flag football was just kind of an also-ran. It was kind of a program that just could not get the numbers, but soccer did, for whatever reasons, but families preferred that, kids preferred it, and more kids got to be involved in it. On the flag football fields and on the soccer fields, Ultimate Frisbee came along, and Ultimate Frisbee tried to displace football, tried to displace soccer. They had to learn to live together. Ultimate Frisbee was a big deal for a while. If you notice, not here, but in 29 Palms, tennis courts gave way to a roller hockey rink for a while. They converted 2 tennis courts down there to roller hockey. That was a big deal for a while, and they felt like that was an okay compromise to just move tennis out and move roller hockey in. That lasted a short time, and then basketball hoops went up, so the tennis courts became something like outdoor basketball, and I'm not sure I don't know if they ever have been restored, to tennis courts over there. I'm seeing a couple of heads shaking no. But I'm just trying to emphasize that some of these transitions have been occurring in the recreation business, in the parks business over the years. At one point, we had roller hockey in Yucca Valley as a big deal. We did not convert tennis courts, but we got some temporary borders and put them up on our basketball courts. So the outdoor basketball was somewhat displaced by roller hockey for a while. Roller hockey didn't survive, basketball out there did, and so that's kind of how you learn. But for a few years, roller hockey was a big deal with the kids. Men's and ladies softball, we had men's and ladies softball leagues in town, diehard men's teams, ladies teams, big substantial leagues. We mentioned co-ed softball at one point and nobody would want to hear about it. Now it transitioned and there was no more, over just a year or two, it transitioned out of men's and ladies leagues into nothing but co-ed softball leagues. And that's, I think, still going on now, even a drop-in program co-ed. So again, the changes happen. The gymnasiums have had to share use and combine use and give way. We've competed for use. We've never had our own gymnasium, and that's going to change soon. But basketball, volleyball, cheerleading, competing uses for the same facility. We've always had to bump each other around and learn to get along. So, and one more example would be the pool. It's so hard to program summer aquatics program when you only have the pool for 8 or 9 weeks, and you've got kids learn to swim lessons, you've got exercise for adults, water exercise classes, you've got lap swim priorities, you've got actually even lifeguard training. There's so many things you want to put into a pool, but when you've got limited daylight and limited hours in a pool, you just can't get everything plugged in. Again, we've had to learn to get along. I am happy personally that we are able to be doing this resurfacing project before the courts have gotten really deteriorated and it has become a screaming need. It's nice to be able to be proactive and go and take care of our courts the way that we were able to. This is a very unique opportunity that with the requests and interest in pickleball, that we have this opportunity to even look at converting one court to, I would leave this up to the staff as they study it further, but I think because of the truncated edges of those courts, maybe 4 courts is not a good solution over there. Maybe it would be better to do 2 because you don't want to tear down fences and go through a construction project. I don't know that. I would leave that to people that are working on the final design. But finally, well, not even finally, I got a couple more things, but I did visit Demuth Park and take a look at pickleball because I was not familiar about it. I have heard about it for maybe 20 years plus. People that pop in and say, you need pickleball, especially people that have moved up from the beach communities seem to say, you need pickleball, you need pickleball. And when we didn't have any money for capital improvements or anything, it was sort of like, okay, we need pickleball, but I don't know how we're going to make that happen. But it has been something that, not going to say it's a burning need, but there has been interest in it for a real long time in this community. It's a fast-growing sport. It's very popular. I did kind of get to personally witness the sound levels and the compatibility of tennis over here and pickleball over there. What I saw was 3 courts that had been converted out of a 4-court complex at Demuth Park. 1 was still tennis. The tennis court was not used the morning I went, but the 3 that had been converted to 4 courts each, so there's 12 pickleball courts. When I got there, there was 2 courts being used for doubles. When I left, 11 of the 12 courts were being used for doubles. So people showed up. I got there early in the morning. They kept showing up and showing up. So there was a lot of interest and a lot of activity there. Granted, it's a little noisier than tennis, but I didn't feel like it was unbearable. I didn't feel like I was as rowdy as maybe I had been led to believe. And finally, the Parks Master Plan. In the Parks Master Plan, which the town has put together and revised over the years, and most recently about 3 years ago, with considerable public input, and all of the user groups that we know of have been invited to all of the sessions, the public input sessions on the Park Master Plan. And pickleball did show up as an interest, as a need. Several of the recommendations in the Parks Master Plan do note pickleball, and even a sport called FUTSAL, futsal, which I am not familiar with. It's something like indoor soccer. But looking down the road at the trends, the Parks Master Plan did identify pickleball as a coming priority. So the Parks and Rec Commission has been consistent. Like I said, I think they're all very honorable people. They volunteer their time. They learn the Park Master Plan. They try to implement the direction of the town council. And I really don't like when their integrity is questioned, because I know them and I know that they do a great job, as do all of our commissions. But anyway, I just wanted to share that in terms of background. I think the Park Master Plan is the guiding document for our movement on developing facilities. And one more thing, on the facilities the opportunities that we have, there were a couple of notes that Macros Park would be good. If we were to go that way, if we decide not to convert a court to any pickleball and to go look at opportunities for pickleball courts, it's not just a matter of going and resurfacing a piece of concrete up at Macros Park. It's not that easy because we are government and because we have to do things by certain methodology. We have to do a study. We have to explore all of our opportunities, and we do have other opportunities. We have the community center. We have possibly over at Brem Park South, there's some land that could be used for additional, not just pickleball, maybe even additional tennis courts, who knows. Essex Park, up where the dog park is, we have land there. Paradise Park is another option. The community center here is another option. So we have a lot of options, and we would have to be exploring all of those in that project. If we decided right now today to do that, by the time we would get some courts built, it would have to be 2 years by the time we went through, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by the time we went through design and approvals and all of that, and out to bid and award a bid and so forth. So just want to share that and give a little bit of different perspective than what I'm hearing, but I kind of feel like I've got some background here that just wanted to share. So with that, I'll pass it along, and any other council members like to comment on this? Anybody?
I have a question.
Councilmember Droz?
I don't know who can answer this question, but it was mentioned the fence between the tennis court and where the proposed pickleball courts would be is not very high. Is that an option to raise that fence? Is that something that could be done?
That's a tall fence or not? The current layout, if it is converted, would remain in a north-south direction. So the ball crossing into the other court wouldn't be an issue as it was represented. If it was set up as a three-court configuration and they were east-west, then that may be an issue. North-south should not be as much of an issue. Of course, that goes both ways, right? So pickleball may end up having a ball go into the other court. Probably less likely, probably more likely would be the tennis ball coming into the pickleball court if they're both playing, just because of the control of the ball.
Is it really a big deal, though, to put a fence between the two?
Well, one of the proposals at the staff level here is a couple of things. This presented an opportunity, since the town is already under contract for resurfacing, to provide an opportunity to put together an asset, recreational asset that the community's been asking for in a relatively short period of time for very inexpensive relative to public works projects. One of the kind of guiding factors is town staff is not recommending that this include substantial modification to the court, not including squaring out the court. That's not part of what our scope would be. That would be a much different project coming to the council or the PRCC. So this is a very much just a restriping. To the degree that we added significant modifications for fencing, lighting, or other access, then I think that becomes a much broader scale project than what staff is currently envisioning. To answer your question specifically, I think what we would do is similar to the questions that you heard today, whether it's 2 courts or 4 courts. We haven't identified exactly what the technical layout of that striping is going to be, so that would need to occur still. As part of that, we would ask that same vendor to provide some guidance on ideal or best practice fencing, and if that becomes an issue, then we can address it at that time or not address it as the case may be.
Thank you.
Any other council members? Councilmember Lombardo?
I heard tonight from the pickleball people that there is an unsafe situation at Macris Park. Is that something that we should be concerned about at this point?
The town always looks to better its public facilities. We've heard some input from the community, pickleball community. Town staff is looking at that and looking at ways that that might be addressed.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to just thank everyone for coming tonight and helping us navigate these changes in our community. And thank you very much to all of you that reached out, taking the time to read all of your letters, your correspondence, taking your calls, and I appreciate that very much. There's a couple things that were in here today, which was great, and one of them was that it didn't seem comfortable to take down a sport to support another sport. But those are things that happen in our community, cyclical. And I think the tennis community here is great because of all the support and all the leadership that the MBTA has had over these years. It has really grown, and it's obvious, by you today that enjoy that sport. Pickleball is kind of new, even though, as the mayor said, he's known about it for 20 years. I've known about it for probably about 8 or 10 years. I've watched many games. I've never participated. I used to play tennis, but I'm no good. It's like golf. I'm not good at that either. But the tennis community, I feel, is strong here is because we have really worked hard to try and make that sport available to those that enjoy it. Pickleball probably isn't as popular based on the hands that we saw here today because they don't have an opportunity. There's one court being shared by many people, and there's basically a line. The times when we had less access to tennis courts, it wasn't as enjoyed, but as we've gotten more courts over the years, my kids, when they were playing tennis under the guidance of Gideon and his team, they grew up playing tennis all the time, and we used the high school almost exclusively. The courts down there for their round robin or their rotating games down there. So I've seen it grow, and I think that's great. But I really want to try and get as many people participating in activities as we can. That's kind of the council's role. It's not really for me to figure out which sport is best for the community. It's to try and see if we can make the opportunities for those. There were other examples that were talked about, games that have come and gone. I remember flag football. My kids were involved in that, but that's not very popular anymore. Soccer has taken that over. Frisbee golf, I have a place that I go to regularly to play for, golf, disc golf as they call it, and it's very popular, but we don't have it here because there's no facility for it. So I think that's how that works, trying to find the opportunities for people and listening to them what we can do. It was one thing that was, I think, misunderstood, and the mayor briefly touched on it, is locations. There were a lot of things that were brought up in the letters and the correspondence to me of where possibly pickleball courts could go in lieu of the proposal today. And there hasn't been any decisions yet on where that facility would go. There's been discussions, and I think those things have somehow turned into discussion that is what we were going to do. Macris Park has been mentioned before, the community center, the new next to the aquatic center, all those have been discussed because they seem to be attractions for people where they could go and enjoy activities. But they're not there today. Part of this is to put together a 2-year plan in order for us to look at those ideas and bring the projects forward. Our community reach, when we do our visioning and our planning, our strategic planning for the community, it comes from you. And how that's put together is then it's prioritized, and then we put a plan together and we implement the plan. It's a lot more work than just resurfacing or doing something. This here, what we're discussing today, and staff had mentioned, it's very little impact to the court itself. if we were to do this. That would be the striping. I think Ron said it best. He understood that, there would be holes there, but these all would be reversible. I would not be recommending to change the courts in any way, to change the structure of the court or the placement or the size of the court. But I also wanted, if it's moved forward, to be safe. And so one of the proposals today was consideration would be 4 courts, and I don't see how that would fit without more research on it. I think if we were to do that, it'd be 2 courts to keep it safe. I've heard about the issues at Paradise Park, and I wouldn't want that. There's not enough of a runaway zone around the courts to help prevent injuries. So there were a lot of things that we talked about, and I appreciate it. I just wanted to say that I hope that we can move forward and bring new opportunities for all ages in our community when we see that there's a desire to have those services.
Thank you. Councilmember Abel?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I had heard that some people were thinking about not coming because they felt it was a slam dunk, that it was going to be approved. And I wanted to reassure them that no, it's not a slam dunk. You need to come and voice your opinion. And I really, really appreciate those that came tonight. And I know some that wanted to be here that can't be here because of scheduling. So thank you for coming. Don't ever give up and just surrender. Let us know what you think. That's what we want to hear. Also, I am so proud of this community because you prove that you don't have to raise hell to be heard. You had a normal, thoughtful discussion. People were clapping for the speakers on both sides. I've been at adult meetings before where I was ashamed to be an adult because I used to teach high school students, and I would not want any of my high school students to see the example that the adults were setting on having discussion. And of course, tonight was a great example of how you can have civil discussion. And again, you don't have to raise hell to be heard. I also want you to know that every council member listens to you, and you don't have to be screaming to be heard. And so I appreciate that. I, too, have received a lot of phone calls and emails, very surprising, on all the issues we've had. Sometimes we expect people to show up and voice a concern or opinion, and they don't show up, and we're like, wow, that surprises me. But this one was very much debated, and you did reach out to your constituents, or to us, and hopefully we reach back to you as well. But I do want you to be reassured that I know these council members, I know myself, we've read through your emails, we've read through your statements, and they were very thoughtful, very thorough, very not only stating the concern, but also providing some solutions. So that's really a wonderful thing. I too, my wife and I also drove down to Palm Springs and to Palm Desert to go down and look at pickleball facilities, to look at tennis facilities, to look at what happens on those courts. It was just a glimpse. I know it was a small little sliver, but as the one young lady was saying, my wife was even saying, hey, maybe that's something I want to try to do sometime, because she was a badminton player in high school. She was never a very good tennis player because of the wrist thing in badminton, but she goes, yeah, that might be something I'd like to do in the future. I am, too, also very concerned about taking away facilities to provide facilities to another group. I agree with the statement that was made that, we're not here, we're not supposed to be taking away facilities and opportunities, we're supposed to be adding them. And of course, we don't have a situation like Palm Springs has where we have a bunch of tennis courts not being used. That's a no-brainer. The suggestion on using basketball courts, if they weren't being used, that's a real good alternative. But as you know, in our community, we're underserved with the amount of things that we have available to us. And the things that we do have are well used. And you just have to look at the soccer programs, and you have to look at the basketball program, and you have to look at the tennis program and everything else to see that we are really utilizing and using what little facilities we have. I think indoor pickleball in the future is going to be a great idea, but that doesn't solve the pickleball issue. I think that's also a small contribution for a long-term solution. So I think we have to really consider facilities that are going to be a long-term outdoor facility that can be used, and not just depend on when a gym might be open or not open. and so forth. We're talking about a 2-year window, I think, is what the most conservative estimate is, which just aggravates most of us up here as council members, that what you can get done in the private sector in months takes years in the public sector, but that's the name of the game. I had some hopes about the possibility of using Macris Park as an alternative site. That's something I even suggested to some people, that that might be something we should look into. I went up there, looked at the facility, looked how that tennis court has deteriorated through the years. And I thought, well, still, we could use maybe, like you were talking about, one of the speakers, she said, you know, use the $25,000 that we're going to spend to convert it, and then the $25,000 we're going to do to convert it back, and use that for maybe a more permanent solution. So I called an expert in the field, someone very high up in the concrete and construction business and so forth, not a private owner, but a person that's in the business itself. And he says, he said, Merle, let me reassure you, there will be people that'll tell you can just resurface the court, you can run concrete over it and patch it. He goes, but that's a short-term solution. That's not going to hold. When that was put in, it wasn't done properly, and the frost and moisture have gotten into it and buckled it. It has to be torn out and rebuilt. And so that really deflated me, because I thought I had a great possible solution to bring to you tonight, and one I was going to push very hard for. But that doesn't seem like a long-term solution. And so if we have to really tear that facility apart and rebuild it, then I agree with the mayor. We need to look at all possible sites for a pickleball court. I'm glad you asked a question about the USTA funding, because $500,000, we do appreciate the contribution that was made, but it wasn't, they put the facility in. If we, you know, we definitely had to add those facilities for it to happen. Again, I'm not into wanting to take away basketball courts that are being used, because again, we have to do fencing, we have to do poles, we have to restripe that. Again, the only other questions I have, the town staff can maybe answer this. We talk about the usage of MBTA. I know Morongo Basin Tennis Association has been using the facilities and so forth. What is the partnership in that? Is that they just offer youth programs on our behalf? Do they have use of facilities? Do they have priority over anybody else in the public using it? Can somebody enlighten me on the Morongo Basin Tennis Association?
Getting the wrong boards confused there.
Yeah, I got the wrong
Councilmember.
board.
Sue, do you want to address that? Great. And by the way, as Sue's coming up, Mayor, since I have the mic, if you can just indulge me, so the public knows, when we bring an item before the Parks and Recreation Cultural Commission and then ultimately to the Town Council, and this is going to be the same for the Planning Commission, these are not ideas that are generated by random employees. In this case, Sue, I don't think you're a professional or even recreational pickleball player.
I've played pickleball twice in my life.
So I just want to make clear that this particular proposal came because we had an opportunity of court resurfacing to address something quickly and cheaply, which doesn't go together normally in governmental services. And it was quite frankly a town manager's idea to get the Parks and Rec Cultural Commission involved. My direction to Sue was, hey, make sure we talk to MBTA, make sure we talk to pickleball players, get them all to the meeting. And it wasn't 3 months ago, it was like 2 weeks ago. Get them all to the meeting, make sure we get input, and let's see. And if the council or the commission or the council don't want to do this, fine, we'll just move on. But if they do, this is a great opportunity to do it. So just want to make sure that the community knows the process, how we bring things forward to the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Commission or your Planning Commission, and then ultimately the reason it was on consent tonight was you had a unanimous recommendation from your Parks, Recreation, Cultural Commission. Thanks for that. Yeah. Go ahead, Sue.
Just briefly, the town works with the Morongo Basin Tennis Association. Currently, they are receiving a Measure Y grant, Quality of Life grant, to run a youth tennis program. Over the years, as Jim mentioned, we've had a variety of programs where they get town funding to operate tennis lessons, whether they be adult lessons or youth lessons. Currently, they are involved in the Measure Y Quality of Life program. So yes, when they do have a town program, they are given priority for that program. And we have the possibility that what the PRCC did consider is we did share that we do have access to the Yucca Valley High School courts. We can, if they choose to have a tournament, for instance, if they want to involve the Low Desert and bring them up for a tournament, the town has the capability to do the use of facilities for that Measure Y program and to request the use of additional courts at Yucca Valley High School as well.
So when you talk about the youth program, running the youth program, is it sort of like our swim program where within several weeks or whatever they run youth programs, or is it they meet every couple times a week at certain times?
So I believe they're running Wednesday and Saturday for the youth program, and it has grown. I think they have 20 or 22 students right now because they actually made a concerted effort to remain open during COVID. And so while you had other sports who were shutting down, the MBTA was very diligent in trying to still offer a youth program outdoors, something that could follow the regulations, and they were very successful. And so I know a lot of their students have been with them for a while now because it was the only sport available during COVID.
Okay, because I was a little concerned because we talked about the amount of courts being used. We have 4 courts, and then the couple of letters, not just one, said that there were designated teaching courts and that they weren't available several times a week.
So there are, if you look at the signage, there are designated teaching courts on the signage presently, and those may need to be modified if we, of course, do a pickleball conversion. And in the past, we have had situations where the town has offered an enrichment class of adult tennis. We're not currently offering that. If we do offer an enrichment class that's a tennis lesson, then of course that that court would be designated for that use at that time. There are also requirements by those who are teaching private lessons that they should be coming to the town and getting a permit. I know that's not always the case, so we don't monitor that activity on a regular basis, but that could be occurring as well and could reduce the opportunity for folks to play if we have instructors who are perhaps running private lessons without a permit.
And there's no permits, as you said, being pulled right now for private
There are no
lessons.
permits for private lessons currently.
That was sort of my concern because use of facilities, use of those courts, that's a small number of courts available. So I just want to make sure we are not having people running and kicking public off of our public courts for a private lesson situation where they're getting compensated to give lessons that's outside of the MBTA's agreement and youth programming, and people not able to use a court because somebody's running a business. So I just saw 2 letters talking about courts being reserved, and so I wanted a little bit more clarification on that.
Yes, and I might add, if the public reads the signage at the courts there, if they suspect that a private operator is teaching lessons and monopolizing the courts, the signage does say to ask the instructor for their permit. Because if they are properly permitted by the town to teach private lessons and they have reserved that time and paid for it, they will get a permit from the town and would be able to display it. So if that's a way of knowing whether or not it's an instructor that has authority.
Okay, and you may or may not give the permit depending on how much those courts are being used. Because I would not want the town to give out a permit if there's a family of 4 that want to come down and play or a group of people. So as need basis or whatever. But yeah, no permits are pulled, so there aren't supposed to be any private lessons. Okay.
Exactly.
Great. Again, I did want people to come to tonight's meeting so we could have a discussion, that we could get in some details, not just pass it on a consent calendar item, that we might have a way of understanding each other. I do agree that 4 courts is not sounding very wise. 2 courts and 3 courts going east to west obviously does not work because of the sun coming up and the sun going down. So no tennis or pickleball player wants to play with the sun in their eyes. So, perhaps the best solution, I guess, we leave this to staff level on striping, is maybe really look at 2 courts for pickleball. The number of people, the amount of, quote, disruption gets a little bit less balls in the area, less people on a court at the time, but yet it doubles our capacity of having a safe place to play pickleball. So again, I wanted people to discuss it. I wanted to do more research. I didn't want to just pass it. And plus, I also have to recognize the Cultural Planning Commission, Parks Recreation Planning Commission, Cultural Commission, who we select to do the real investigation, gave us a unanimous vote on that. So they've taken discussion as well. But I want people to know nothing is a slam dunk. You have to let your voices be heard all the way up to the final decision. And again, thank you guys for being civil here tonight.
Mayor, if I might, as you consider your motion this evening, a couple things that staff would be looking for. Number one, we would never presume that the council would automatically want to engage in a project like adding pickleball courts. As an example, the 2 southerly new tennis courts at Jacobs, that project back in 2010 was roughly $500,000. So that would be about a similar type of project that you would need for permanent pickleball. So that's not the intent here. Obviously, the intent is maybe to gauge what type of interest you have before you make that type of financial commitment in the future. You wouldn't want to do that blind. So that's one of the goals here with this project. Secondly, we would want to know at a staff level if you want us to continue to look at a longer-term solution beyond the one that we have already identified in some of your background material that can be included in your new gym that's coming in 2024. So as you consider your motion tonight, if you could also provide some of that direction, that would be helpful.
Okay, any other council discussion?
I have one question. I'm not sure if Sue can answer it or if Curtis can. What is the town's access to the school tennis courts? And is there an opportunity there where maybe we surface 1 or 2 of their courts into pickleball courts? Would they be accessible to the public, or are they locked down by
So the town has had opportunity to engage with the school district through our facility use agreement. This is a mutual agreement for facilities, both the town facilities and MUSD facilities, either way, depending on what the needs are of each individual agency. We would work with the need that's demonstrated by MBTA, whether it's for a one-off event or if their program grew to where, similar to when my kids were in Gideon's program, all of the Saturday rally ball was at the high school. So those options are available. We would not recommend that we begin to entertain adjusting facilities or improving facilities for another public agency, though.
Okay.
The other thing is on those tennis courts, when they do have CIF and dual meet matches and so forth, all 6 courts are used at that time. So it can't be permanently changed to a pickleball.
Okay.
No further discussion. I will entertain a motion on this item. The item is to accept the recommendation or not accept the recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission for the temporary conversion of 1 tennis court at Jacobs Park to 4 pickleball courts for a period of 2 years. If you make a motion and wish to modify that, please so state.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to move forward with the theme of the project, but I would like more information on the safety considerations for 4 courts versus 2 courts.
Allow staff to maybe make that decision.
Yeah, I'd like to have staff come back with that presentation, being concerned about safety and activity on that site.
Given the timeline, I'm not sure we would have time for a staff presentation on that.
So if you would like, you can consider a motion along the lines of directing staff to move forward with the conversion, depending on how that specification is best suited for safety, anywhere from 2 to 4 courts. My guess is if it were to be 4 courts, we would need additional funding. If it required constructions, that would come back to you anyways. So just moving forward with safety as a priority.
Yes, and also in my comments too, I'd like to add to that motion that I do not want to have the additional construction to the site to alter that base tennis court to where it could not be reconverted.
Okay, we have a motion. Does everybody understand the motion? Yep. We're good. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. And thank you again to everybody that came out and spoke on this. For all the public input, we appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a tough one.
Okay, item number 17, amendment to ordinance number 156 regarding the sign ordinance. May we have a staff report on that, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, Jared Jerome, Associate Planner, will present the Planning Commission recommendation for amendments to ordinance number 156 in regards to murals.
Good evening, council members. Apologies for the disguise. If you remember, I'm the beautiful one with the red beard.
And confidence.
So the recommendation is that the town council finds the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3, which states that if an activity is covered by the general rule that CEQA applies only to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment and where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment, the activity is not subject to CEQA, and that the town council introduces the ordinance for the removal of section 87.07147 wall murals from ordinance 156. That's a sign regulation ordinance. And that the town council approves the proposed mural program guiding policies and principles, recommendations based on the information contained in the staff report, and to provide direction to staff as necessary. October of last year, the town council adopted an interim urgency ordinance on the installation of wall murals for a period of 10 months and 15 days. Proposed mural regulations have been reviewed by the Planning Commission at 5 separate meetings. Most recently in July, the July 12th meeting of the Planning Commission recommended the removal of murals from Ordinance 156 and the proposed regulations be forwarded to Town Council for review. So I won't go through all of these, but this is the wall mural design criteria that's in Ordinance 156. As you can see, this section is labeled 87.07147. So these regulations would be removed from the sign regulations. Here's some of the bigger headlines that the Planning Commission came up with as far as how what the guiding principles and policies would be for this mural program. Properties in commercial and Old Town zoning districts would be eligible to apply for a wall mural permit. Murals would not be limited to one per building. Murals would be limited to one per wall. So each wall of the structure could have one mural. No advertising of products or services, business names, brand names, etc., would be involved with the murals. It'd be primarily artistic content. Murals are encouraged to display local history, flora, fauna, culture, and heritage of the town. However, it is not mandatory for a mural to contain that content. It is just encouraged. All color schemes are considered. Murals will need to be maintained. If they're not maintained, they would need to be removed to keep the murals looking nice. And then lastly, the town will create a standalone wall mural program that is not regulated under the sign regulation ordinance. It would be a standalone policy document. So the review process for proposed murals, Planning Commission approval is required for the placement and application of the mural. The PRCC approval is required for the content, design, and the qualifications of the mural artist. Each applicant would be required to sign into an agreement with the town through a mural easement or a similar tool. That agreement would allow the town to regulate the design of the mural. So the next steps for this program would be the PRCC and Planning Commission would work on more detailed policies and procedures and forward those recommendations to the council. The town council would develop the town financial participation, lease and easement document to be required for murals to.
Let's stop on this slide for just a moment and want to talk about this. What staff is outlining for you is really a multi-stepped process. So the Planning Commission has made the initial recommendation in regards to the sign code, and that sign code establishes the regulations for murals today. And the recommendation is to remove that. So this is kind of your first step in this overall process. Included with the Planning Commission's recommendation were the guiding policies and guiding principles, but those are not the final criteria. So as Jared has outlined very well for the council and the community this evening, this will now move forward through Parks and Recreation, Cultural Commission, maybe Planning Commission, and I think those final nuances need to be worked out at the staff level as well to put the finite detail together for mural program, town-sponsored mural program. Additionally then, town staff, in addition to the town attorney's office, needs to be simultaneously bringing forward, how is the technical component going to work? How's the town going to have a lease or an easement on the buildings where these murals are going to go? And what level of financial participation is the town going to have? So this evening is step one in terms of amending the code. That way we're addressing the moratorium also that the council put in place, and then staff has outlined the next steps that have to be returned to the council for final action. With that, Jared, if you want to finish walking through the rest of the process.
Sure. So all that's left is restating this recommendation for you. Again, it's the recommendation is that the town council finds that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3, that there is no potential for environmental effect on the environment, that the town council introduces the ordinance for the removal of section 87.07147 wall murals from ordinance 156. And lastly, that the town council approves the proposed mural program guiding policies and principal recommendations based on the information in the staff report, and to provide direction as necessary. And with that, we can answer questions after public comment.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this item? Anybody online? No? I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for questions or comments. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So thank you for the proposal, or the outline tonight, and the proposal and the work that has been done so far. I'm in favor of this. Generally, I just had a couple of comments on here, basically, that were not real clear to me. There were a couple things that in here under findings, that's number 12 under B. It says here the proposed mural is well integrated with the buildings and other elements of the property. And then back up to number 4, it says, however, all submissions for wall murals are welcome. The design shall be applied by a certified mural artist as determined by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission. So the thing is those two things kind of fight each other a little bit for me. One, it says all submissions are welcome, not approved or not denied. And then the other one actually has a little bit of guidance on it. And what I was thinking when I'm looking at it is another statement in here under 12A says exhibits exceptional design quality. I'm not too much into the Art Deco theme, and I'm not an artist by any means. I'm a lot more of a structure thing, public safety infrastructure, things like that. So when I see that, it seems like there's a little bit of a loose end there. I don't know what the interpretation would be, and I want to make sure that as we move forward on mural submissions and approvals, that maybe there's a little bit more guidance on what is art and what isn't art. I don't know how to do that. Maybe it's already good enough and it would be interpreted on each item, but I'd really like to be able to have people that are looking to have murals considered on their buildings to have some kind of idea how they want to start the process and what they can and can't do, so they really have a little more information as they start to submit things for approval. Other than that, I really like the proposal. There's been some good work in this, and I really appreciate it. I am surprised that there's not as many people attending tonight, because originally with murals, when we started this guidance, the room was full and plenty of comments were received. So I hope if anyone's listening online, that you know, we are still here and we are working on the program, and there's been a lot of hard work done. So thank you. That was it.
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Abel?
On here, it states, and maybe I can't find it or didn't see it, it stated, you know, very in-depth conversations that were going on by the Planning Commission about the murals. I too agree that taking it out of the sign ordinance and making it a separate standalone makes a whole lot of sense, and I'm really thrilled with that. That's sort of the direction I was hoping the Planning Commission would go in. It said staff received 7 comments of written communication that were distributed to council and staff, and 4 others that were received after the meeting began and would be included in the packet next time we discuss. So are those some of the statements that I see, or were those verbal statements from other people? I don't know if we have copies of that included in here. I do see where the public comment, where I could read what the people that showed up to the meeting, but I don't see anything on the copies of what was given to them from other people in the public.
I don't know if are you reading out of Planning Commission minutes where those
Yeah.
items were going to be presented back to the Planning Commission? So that would have been a part of the Planning Commission's record.
But we don't have a copy of what the citizens said about the mural project?
If those were presented to the Planning Commission, that's a part of that record. And I don't believe that is included this evening, but the reference to it is in the Planning Commission minutes.
Okay, well, I have a couple questions. One is, and it looks like we discussed the whole idea of the First Amendment rights and so forth. By doing this approach, we allow people to express themselves. However, we also have some ways of regulating what gets approved and what does not. As far as the grandfathering in of murals that are presently up, such as Desert Nest, The End, Chet's Appliances, Glen Realty, those types of things, are those grandfathered in, or they go through the process of evaluation?
So the recommendation before the council this evening does not address what is technically referred to as legal non-conforming uses, or what some individuals use as the grandfather clause. So that is not included in any of the recommendations this evening. And that's not a decision that the town council has to make this evening. That's something that staff could bring back to the council. But a couple comments. A majority of the murals that have been installed without permit. And as such, in typical zoning fashion, they have no grandfather status because they are what's termed not permitted, not legal. That's at a 30,000 foot elevation level, but council still has discretion. Number two, if we talk about individual cases, let's take Chet's. Chet's building has been vacated. They are no longer operating from that site. And we've actually sent notice to that property owner to remove that mural. There's no longer a basis for it to exist. Number one. Number two, it was never permitted. Desert Nest and Stater Brothers West, those are not murals. Those are signs as established by your sign code. Those were installed by the owner with knowledge a violation of the code, and they have no permits for those. And staff would not include a recommendation to the council that those receive any form of grandfather status due to the nature of the extent that they violate the town's existing sign code, even with the changes that the council's making this evening. There are others, and maybe, for example, at a future time when we bring that back to the council, maybe the council wants to review each one individually. Maybe the council wants to have the opportunity to work with that business owner or property owner on possible changes to the mural. Maybe it fits into the criteria. But again, that's not anything that the council has to address this evening, and staff can bring that back for further conversation.
Very good. I don't want to make a decision that causes all of a sudden whitewashing of murals that are already up or what's called a sign, because most of them have been well received by the community. And again, I feel for small businesses, you have to sort of make yourself a visible presence. I know that we've gotten a whole lot of social media attention, Yucca Valley, with the end as a small business, and I see that on social media all the time. Free advertisement really for our community. I also, my only heartburn is in this new ordinance that states that even without approval, they could not have any reference to their particular business, such as the End or Desert Nest has now. And that's sort of something that I don't want to preclude from being able to be done. If it's done, for example, like the End, if you look at the diagram on the page there, it's part of their art and also, of course, the name of their business. So I don't want to undo something that's positive in my eyes, and maybe a lot of people in the community. I also want to apologize for any of these small business people that maybe weren't here tonight or weren't aware of this or whatever, that I did not call and contact them and let them know specifically that their murals may be under review or attack or removal in the future, and that they need to come and speak on their behalf, because I do know they're very passionate about what they've done. So that's my concern about the lettering, not allowing any kind of lettering and any kind of reference to the business. I figured if someone like the Inn presented this to the Parks and Recreational Cultural Commission, they could either approve it or they could say we like it without the name on there, or with it on there, it's fine. But I'd like to let them have the opportunity, Parks and Recreation, to make that decision, not just blanketly say it's excluded. So.
I agree. I think that part of the purpose of having a cultural committee and that sort of thing is to have them make some of those decisions, and or at least approve them. I also feel for the small businessman who wants to pretty up their building. There's not a lot you can do sometimes because you might be a renter and you don't want to reconstruct, but you can paint a mural. I think there should be leeway to have tastefully done, and it has to be approved, signage that is appropriate for the mural. There are, and you know, especially if it adds some humor or some color, or, you know, add something to the community visually, I think it should be considerable or considered, and if approved, should be able to be completed. Considerable? No, I don't know. I like that idea of at least having them approve it or not approve it based on what looks appropriate or feels appropriate. I looked at the Desert Nest mural, and I see nothing wrong with it. And that's a very unique building, though, in our community, because it has parking lot 360 degrees around it. And as a business, you want your business visible to traffic, and it needs some kind of signage in all directions, because you could go into that parking lot thinking, oh yeah, I know it's here somewhere, but unless you're coming from the one, I guess it has signage on two sides, but it doesn't have anything at all on the side that goes right through the shopping center there. And I don't see anything objectionable about it. It's not glaring, but I think that's something that can be determined by the commission and then brought to the council.
Okay, any other comments? No?
I think it's appropriate that the PRCC does review everything, and if it's not agreed upon or somebody contests it, it can always come to the town council after that. So that's the safeguard right there. If someone's turned down, it'll come to the town council.
We have to have reasonable alternatives.
Sure.
Just one more thing. In many cases, I am in favor of having the businesses on the murals, especially if it has something to do with the history and the other theme items that we had spoken of in the area. It may actually relate directly to the business itself. But I'm not really sure, and this would be up to staff, is how do we even consider that if we're starting to blur the lines now between the sign ordinance and the mural ordinance? That's another tough one to try and figure out, so it'll take a little bit of work. So just something to think about, but some of the businesses are appropriate. I've seen businesses that have they've wanted to have their name on a mural, and I think it was appropriate. But once again, the PRCC is, and possibly the Planning Commission would be the ones that are looking at those and figuring out the appropriate use.
Okay, good points all. I agree with that. I'm glad we're working our way through this mural issue. It has a lot to do with the personality of our town and the look of our town, and I think I'm just glad we're moving it forward. I do like bringing it out of the sign code and involving both the Planning Commission and the PRCC. So with that, there is a motion. Do we need to read the ordinance? No, just act on the motion.
The title of the ordinance this evening is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, amending section 87.07147 of ordinance number 156, sign regulations. And the motion can just include moving the Planning Commission's recommendation as outlined in the staff report.
All right, thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion?
So my understanding is just the removal of it from one body of work to another?
That's correct.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote.
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Okay, department reports. Item number 18, the approval of the agreement for investment management services. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, there's a recommendation before you for a new service agreement for the town to utilize investment management services that will be provided by Chandler Asset Management. As you have followed the town's fiscal reporting over the past few years, you will be able to easily remember that there's been steady revenue increases and a consistent growth of the town's reserves. With this increase, town staff recognizes the advantages of expanding the town's asset investment strategies by utilizing the services of an experienced and specialized organization such as Chandler. This evening, we have Mia Coral Brown with us, and she'll provide a brief presentation of the services that they will provide. So Mia, if you want to come on up, she's also now an expert on pickleball and tennis within the town, so thank you for your patience.
Not a problem. Good evening, honorary mayor, members of the town council and town staff. I have to address Jordan and her comment. We've been doing this for a very long time at Chandler. I myself have been an employee there for over 18 years, working alongside our clients here in Southern California to ensure that we always meet and exceed their expectations for service. So you can only imagine the number of town or council meetings that I've attended over the years and the different subjects that I'm now an expert on. So no, it was really my pleasure to be here and to listen through this. Let's see if I can get to page 1. So just a little bit about Chandler Asset Management and how we came to be. First, I want to acknowledge that the town has done a very good job in managing the safety of its investment program, utilizing the local agency investment fund managed by the State Treasurer's Office. We know what a big step it is to work with a different firm or a private organization. So Chandler Asset Management was started in 1988 by our chairwoman, Kay Chandler. She really began her career sitting on the same side of the desk as each of you, serving as an investment officer first for the County of San Diego, followed by the City of San Diego. And her goal was really to open a firm to provide access for public agencies to have portfolios managed in compliance with the California Government State Code, and in conjunction, most importantly, with the acknowledgements of safety, liquidity, and return. Today, 35 years later, Chandler manages over $27 billion for clients who adhere to SLI, or safety, liquidity, and return. We are a registered investment advisor, which means we share your fiduciary duty, providing transparency of all of your underlying holdings and programs. We charge a flat fee and seek best execution whenever we go out to trade on your behalf. It's important to note that we are independent and we are employee-owned. We are not under ownership by any bank, brokerage, or financial advisory services firm, and we really sit on the same side of the desk as you. About a decade ago, we decided to create the Guided Portfolio Strategies platform, which is a program designed for smaller-sized agencies, such as the town of Yucca Valley, who needed access to professional investment management services. And this GPS program really delivers a scope of services that's comprehensive and compatible with the needs of the town, from discretionary management that conforms to a chosen strategy. And I've had conversations with both Jordan and Curtis to review those investment strategies. We also provide an initial review of the town's investment policy to ensure that it aligns perfectly well with the California Government State Code, and it certainly does at this point in time, as you adopted a policy earlier this summer. We utilize our expertise to identify market opportunities so that the town can work to optimize those idle funds and earn additional investment income in your investment portfolio in a very safe manner. And we provide ongoing credit analysis, compliance with the California Government State Code, and comprehensive reporting, both on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual basis. Importantly, we are in frequent communication with the town and its staff via our quarterly conference calls to review the economic analysis and performance. And you will also have access to your portfolio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, via Chandler's online secure portal. There you have the ability to see transactions, trade tickets, any information such as holdings, underlying credit quality, etc. But all of that information is available and produced on the third business day following month end. Important to note, we have been in business for over 35 years, and we have a very large footprint in our home state of California. I've put together just a small list of some of the clients with whom we work in Southern California. In the Inland Empire, and in particular in the Coachella Valley, we provide investment management services to the City of Palm Springs, Coachella Valley Water District. Our oldest client here in the Coachella Valley is the City of Indio. We've worked with them now for over 12 years, as well as Desert Hot Springs, which also participates in the GPS program. They came to us a little over 5 years ago with the need to also have a professional investment advisor investing funds on their behalf. And we were also recently engaged by Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District and the Coachella Valley Cemetery District, as well as the many other clients with whom you see. We have, over the 35 years, an over 95% track record, or client satisfaction record, client retention record, rather. And so our clients hire us and stay with us for a very long time. We know and understand their investment programs, and they know and work very well with our team and our staff of investment professionals at our firm. Just showing you here in this diagram, we want you to know that we have a very deep bench of investment professionals. All of those with the CFA or Chartered Financial Analysts behind their names are those investment professionals who will lead the investment process on behalf of the town of Yucca Valley. We also have senior portfolio strategists who participate in the credit analysis process, implementing portfolio strategy, meeting with clients, and then, of course, making recommendations on rebalancing portfolios. And then we have a very robust client service and operations team. We also utilize a very disciplined, repeatable investment process that has worked very successfully for our clients' portfolios and have a very strong track record of above benchmark returns over our 35 years of experience. And most importantly, what I'd like you to focus on here is the limited maturity strategy, or the 1 to 3 year strategy. In moving from an investment pool, we've reviewed this strategy with both Jordan and Curtis, and we believe that this would be a very nice fit for the town. It's an extremely conservative strategy. You'll see that the portfolio is invested between 0 and 5 years. There's 25% of natural liquidity embedded in the portfolio within 0 and 1 years. And most of the portfolio is invested in U.S. Treasury and government agencies, but is also well diversified across sectors and different allocations, such as U.S. corporates, asset-backed securities, and supranationals. We also have a longer duration strategy, but we think that that might be a better opportunity for the town after they have an opportunity to get their feet wet, or to get your feet wet, if you will, in a more conservative strategy to begin with. In thinking about where rates are today and where they were back in January of 2022, we have a very robust, if you will, investment opportunity. Currently in LAIF, you are earning about 1.25%, because it's gone up a little bit since the beginning of July in 2022. But if you look back in January, rates were below 0.25% at 0.22. By going out just a year to buy a very, very safe 1 year U.S. Treasury, those rates moved from 0.73 to almost 3%. A 2 year Treasury was 1.19%, and today is over 3%. So if you think about investing or optimizing $15 million, let's say, from the LAIF program, and just earning 2% in additional returns or in investment income, that would generate approximately $300,000 in investment income to the town's portfolio in a very safe manner today. And Chandler's fee is approximately 12 basis points, or $18,000 for the entire year. So you can see that it really makes sense to take advantage of this yield opportunity and to start to really build a reserve program for the town for future expenses and long-term reserves. And last but not least, this is just a summary of the reports that we provide to our clients. We want you to have comfort in knowing that they meet all of the GASB requirements, that we provide annual reporting for your GASB 40 and GASB 72 for fair value market measurement, in conjunction and for preparation of your ACFR reports, which staff is probably in the midst of working on currently. All of our reports are designed for use by management. We also provide, again, an economic update on a quarterly basis and portfolio performance reviews via calls. And just some quick program highlights. What's important to note is that we provide fiduciary oversight. Again, as a registered investment advisor, we share your fiduciary duty and sit on the same side of the desk as you. We have investment programs that will fully comply with state guidelines and the town's investment policy. We have a $2 million minimum investment, and all of the town's assets will not be held at Chandler. They will be held by a third-party custodian, and we will be given authorization to invest on your behalf. So if you utilize US Bank, that fee is 1 basis point above Chandler's 12 basis point fee, and Bank of New York would be approximately 3 basis points for custody services. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation and open it up to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this? Seeing none, bring it back to the council. Questions?
Yeah. What amount of reserves do we have that we could invest in this sort of thing, Jordan?
So my kind of current estimates would be based off of what the town currently has in LAIF and then the fully liquid money market account that we have. We could comfortably invest around $10 million into this GPS program. We don't have that dollar amount identified yet. We'll work with Mia on that, but that would be a very comfortable amount to start with in that 1 to 3 year period.
And you're saying at this time we could expect a comfortable 3% safely?
Very safely in this current investment environment.
Okay. It seems like a no-brainer to me. I think it's time it happened.
Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem?
Right. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. It was great. Okay, with that, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Let's get it done.
Receive and file? Oh, yeah, correction. Yeah, I'll second that if it's not already seconded.
Got a motion and a second?
Councilmember Zabel?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Droz?
Yes.
Lombardo?
Yes.
And Mayor Schooler?
Yes. Item number 19, Building and Safety Annual Presentation and Report. May we have the staff report on that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, Paul Osterman with the town's Building and Safety Division, as well as with Charles Abbott Associates, who the town has contracted with since incorporation for providing building and safety services to the community. It's going to give a run-through of our building and safety operations over the past year. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to have to turn this over to Leslie real quick because I forgot how to do this. Oh, there. I don't know who's doing that, but thank you. And how do I get to the, hey, there we go. Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, Town Council. Good to see you all again. I'm here to present to you the fiscal year 2021-22 annual report for your Building and Safety Department. How do I get this? There we go. At this time, staff would, that's not staying. At this time, staff would like to make a recommendation that Town Council receive and file the Building and Safety Annual Report after its conclusion. And finally, a little bit about ourselves, our hours of operation, our permit counter hours are Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5:30. Construction inspection hours, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. Inspector counter hours, when the public can meet with myself or our inspector for technical knowledge or procedural knowledge or anything like that between 7:30 and 9 a.m. We'd like to make ourselves available to the public. Our building staffing at this time consists of a building official, myself, a full-time inspector, who, by the way, is ICC certified, along with myself, and a ICC certified part-time building inspector, and a full-time permit technician. Few highlights for the fiscal year. The 2,621 total permits issued for the fiscal year is a record for the town of Yucca Valley for total permits issued. We're pretty proud of ourselves for that. There was a lot going on and a lot, I guess one of the biggest permit types that went into that was the sewer permitting. now that Phase 1 is getting closer to being final. That may slow down a little bit, however. There's a lot more happening every day, and it never ceases to amaze our department on the things that come across our counter. 50 single-family dwellings was down a little bit from the prior fiscal year. Mainly had a lot to do with the Joshua Tree protection and the things that needed to be done by applicants to comply with town ordinance. The all-popular accessory dwelling units, the ADUs, we expect this number of 15 that we did last year to increase significantly as they become more popular. Just the sheer amount of land that most single dwelling units sit on right now, most of them can't afford to have an accessory dwelling unit, and like I said, they are becoming very popular for extended families, vacation rentals, and what have you. The 5,372 total inspections, again, was another record for the town of Yucca Valley. I was rather proud of the number I gave all you folks 2 fiscal years ago, pre-pandemic. That was a record, but that increased by approximately 2,000 inspections. Came out to a total of about 21 and a half per day, per working day. We still offer same-day inspection service and inspections 5 days a week. This is a very interesting slide. What I did was I took 4 specific permit types and did a little comparison over 3 running fiscal years. As you could see, the first one, swimming pools, took a dramatic jump year to year. 2 reasons, I believe. Rental units, short-term vacation rentals, upgrading to swimming pools, making themselves a little more marketable, I'm sure. And just the upgrade of people wanting to upgrade their existing homes. I thought that was real interesting during a pandemic year to see all these swimming pools go in. I guess safety for the family, keeping family at home, whatever. Electrical alterations made a huge jump. Mechanical alterations, new mechanicals, the all important and now popular mini split systems, really popular these days. And look at the amount of solars that we permitted the last fiscal year. Very interested public in green energy, and that drove a lot of that business. Customer service, plan check turnaround in 10 business days or less. We do our very, very best to stay within that 10 business days. We find that the public is happy with our plan check turnaround. There's not many jurisdictions that could say that they turn around plan checks in less than 30 days, so we're pretty proud of that. Our building and safety staff, over 50 years combined building and safety experience. 100% of all inspections called in by 7 a.m. are done on the same day. Again, we do not skip inspections. We do not let them lag to the next day. We don't believe that's very good service. Staffing levels to fit workload needs. We have the flexibility to upstaff depending on work levels.
Before we go on to the next slide, I just want to emphasize one of Paul's points. That first item, plan check turnaround in 10 business days or less. Our standard timeline is faster than most agencies, what they refer to as expedited plan review, for which you are charged additional fees. So our standard process is faster than expedited reviews of most other public agencies in this region.
Thank you very much for that. And by the way, our fee schedule does not include fees for expedited plan review, in which most jurisdictions do have. We don't think there's a need for it. We believe we're fast enough. Proud to be part of ongoing town improvements. The North Park restroom and trailhead parking is getting very close to completion, turning out very nice. The senior center kitchen upgrades turned out great. We think that's going to be a very nice improvement to the senior center. Different commercial developments going on right now. The Burtech sorting and recycling and truck maintenance center just north of Community Development Building, getting very close to final right now. The installation of the Tesla charging stations at the grocery outlet center right by Town Hall here is getting very close to completion, and the new Aldi grocery store is getting very close to completion itself. That should be done in the next 30 days or so. Things are going along very well with all three of those. Residential development. As I said, 50 new single-family residences permitted last fiscal year, 15 accessory dwelling units, 2,579 residential permits issued, a very big number, and 4,504 total residential inspections performed. Some other highlights: 888 plan reviews performed. That was a lot. I actually did go out for a little bit of help on that, even for my hours that I'm in the office. That turned out to be a lot of plan checks. 2,621 permits issued, like I said, most ever issued, and 5,372 inspections performed. At this time, staff would like to recommend that the council receive and file the report. And I'd like to open it up to any public comment or questions.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody in the public wish to comment on this? Nobody online either. Bring it back to the council.
Impressive.
Councilmember Lombardo.
Extremely impressive. My goodness. I don't know how you fit it all in.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome job.
I agree, very impressive, and all my dealings with the planning department have been incredible. So thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I agree with the other council members. I have personal experience of pulling permits and so forth, and the amount of time response from the town is exceptionally wonderful. Also, anytime I get a chance to talk to any contractors or builders or whatever, I always ask for feedback on their experience with the town, and 95% of the time, it's always been very, very positive. And you guys always outscore the county's experience with these builders. So continue to do what we ask you to do, and that's provide really friendly service in a timely manner and promoting and thoughtful development. So you guys do an outstanding job. And you also take the time to help lay people figure out what they're doing. So I know that's can be much more time consuming than dealing with the professionals. So maybe you've seen an increase of actual homeowners trying to pull permits and do jobs and so forth. So it's never been slowed down because of the town. It's always slowed down because contractors are too busy and can't come to the project. But good job and thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I appreciate also, last few years, I've always been amazed that if someone calls in before 7 o'clock in the morning and they get the inspection that day to move forward, move the project forward. And you said this year you brought in additional support to help get through these plan reviews, 888 of them. I see that, but you scale your team correctly, and you keep them on point. And it's out there in the public. A lot of people depend on that. They have a product or they have crews coming in to continue the job as soon as you give them the green light. and you're just as much on their team as anybody else. So thank you for doing that and keeping the things moving in town. I'm sure it's not easy getting up every morning and trying, what was it, like 21 point something inspections a day?
Yeah, wow.
Well, you're only here a few hours, so congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you for the report, Paul. It's, like they say, it's a very impressive workload and accomplishment, and we do get really good response from the public on that. I know that there have been a few of our new businesses in town that have been really challenging to get through it, but I've personally seen the customer service and the attention to detail and responsiveness, so thank you for that and for keeping us looking good. So thanks.
Thank you, sir.
It's a receive and file, so we will move on to future agenda items. Any member of the council wish to put something on a future agenda? Seeing none.
Yeah, I got one.
Seeing none, we'll move on to public comments. The town council takes this time to consider your comments on items of concern which are not on the printed agenda. When you are called to speak, please state your name and community of residence. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Inappropriate behavior which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting will result in forfeiture of your public comment privileges. The town council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not on the printed agenda. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on any item not on the printed agenda?
Mayor Schooler, we have a request to speak by Mr. Craig Hoisel.
Craig Ozell from Yucca Valley. Honorable Mayor and City Council, thank you for hearing my comments. I've supplied photos for you on a sheet for your review to see what I'm talking about tonight. I'd like to bring it to the council's attention that the weeds on Palomar south of Onaga to Joshua Drive and also Joshua Drive west of Palomar are getting so big that they're impacting the asphalt berm that runs north and south on the west side of the road. Because we don't have concrete curbs and gutters down Palomar, the asphalt berm is a good alternative to direct the water down the street during storms. Once the berm is eroded completely, the city comes out and replaces it with sandbags, and now the sandbags are deteriorating and the water is undermining the road, the actual asphalt road. So anyhow, I'd like to suggest tonight that the Public Works Department scrape the weeds and kill them or poison them to stop the deterioration of the asphalt berm. You know, it's a good berm and the weeds seem to grow into it, and once they start eroding into it, it deteriorates it. So, thank you.
Thank you for the comments.
No comments.
Moving on to staff reports and comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, we'll try and keep this relatively brief today. I do want to make a warm welcome to Captain Warwick. I'm surprised we already have your nameplate. You must be planning on being here for a while. So I think they said you have to be here at least 3 or 4 years before you can go anywhere else. Okay. Just so you know. Before I turn it over to Captain Warwick, I do want to just recognize Lieutenant Wiebold in the last month, roughly, since Captain Niles departed. He's just held down the fort terrific. Has been very accessible to the town staff, town council, and so we appreciate the additional work that was picked up by the lieutenant and for his commitment to the town. So with that, Captain, you have anything for us this evening? Welcome.
Thank you very much. And just briefly, yes, I'll echo what you said about Lieutenant Wiebold. He's been fantastic during this transition. Unfortunately, with my previous assignment, I had some projects I was working on that took me up until the very end, and Lieutenant Wiebold did a lot of things back at the station, some of which are not even seen by the public, most of which are not seen by the public, and he performed like a champ, so I'm grateful for that. And I will comment about the nameplate. I think maybe building and safety must have had something to do with it, because it was actually here 2 weeks ago when Captain Niles retired, And as I stepped up to congratulate him, he took his off and put mine down. So that's really awesome. It's even more impressive.
Wow. Couldn't feel more wanted.
If I could briefly just remind any of our town residents that might be watching or listening online that school starts next week. And you're going to see an increased presence of deputy sheriffs around the schools here in town. I encourage you to exercise patience. It can be very difficult, especially if your child is new to that school this year, as kids move on from elementary school to middle school and whatnot. Exercise patience. Know that all the rules of the road still apply, and we're going to take it very seriously to keep them safe. So allow extra time in the morning, and then again for pickup. Usually it eases up a little bit after the first couple of days of school, but just keep that in mind and don't be in a hurry, because there's some deputy sheriffs out there with citation books. They're not afraid to use them if that's what it takes to keep the kids safe. Secondly, I want to let everybody know that we're going to be having National Night Out. It's going to be out on a Tuesday, October the 4th, and it's going to be here in the north parking lot from 5 to 7. That is a council Tuesday, so anybody who wants to show up a little bit early and partake and meet some of the deputy sheriffs and some of the things that we'll have on display outside. There's going to be some more details to follow, but we have secured that date, and as additional information becomes available, it'll be available on our social media. So if you guys are not following the Morongo Basin Station, I encourage you to do so. That's a big part of my background, as I explained a couple of weeks ago, so we're going to have a very large social media presence, and the latest breaking information and upcoming events will always be on the social media. And then lastly, the Morongo Basin Resource Fair is going to be on August the 24th. It's being hosted at Copper Mountain College. There's several organizations from the basin that are going to be out there. It's not just a job fair. Selfishly, the Sheriff's Department is looking for employees. We have a lot of job opportunities, and a lot of people think of the Sheriff's Department, they think of a badge and a gun and a deputy sheriff, and we have so many jobs just within the Morongo Basin Station, what I consider great paying jobs with very competitive benefits for people who live here in the basin. We'd love to have you, and we're going to have some recruiters specific to some of those positions out at Copper Mountain College on the 24th, so I would encourage you to attend. And there's also, it's called a resource fair because there's lots of different services there for veterans, and ability to get birth certificates and death certificates and marriage certificates for a lot of people who might be in need of those things. So if you want to check that out, lots of stuff happening for people in the basin, and I encourage you to come out and join us.
That it, Captain?
That is it for me, sir.
All right, thank you. Welcome again. Deborah, Armando, Jordan, anything tonight? Sue, you want to give a quick wrap on your closed programs?
So we had another successful aquatics program this year. It was awesome. Got in more and more swim lessons and more programs that we plan to segue over to the new center. So we're excited about that. And a shout out to Councilmember Drost for hosting our last Summer Music Festival concert. So thank you for that. Our last summer event is this coming weekend, our Splash Dash up at Macris Park, and that will conclude our offerings for this summer. So had a great summer. Everyone had a lot of fun and a lot of great participation. So thank you for your support.
Terrific. Thanks, Sue. Shane, do you have anything to say?
Just real quick, Mayor and Council, this afternoon we had a very unique event. The stuff was falling from the sky that we haven't seen in a while. Got hit pretty hard starting in the east end of town, and the storm moved across to the west side. We haven't been out for complete observations yet, but just a little bit of driving around town. There's a lot of areas that have sand, debris. There's some large rocks out in the roadway. So we had a pretty good force of water going down from the south side of town, at least on the south side, from the south going north as the streets slope. So drive with caution. Street crews will be out tomorrow morning, starting with major arterials, getting those open back up, and we will have information out to the council on approximately how long it's going to take and what will be involved. So just a very brief update on what we know at this point.
Thanks, Shane. Tomorrow, first time since the pandemic in early 2020, all of your town staff is getting together for a town staff development and training event. We're closing down town hall, town community service offices, as well as ComDev from about 11 to 1 tomorrow to be able to get together. One of the things that we always do in those meetings is introduce our new employees. Of the people that we have, Deborah, I'm not sure, but we probably have close to a third of them.
Well, so just one correction, we haven't gotten together since actually 2019.
Okay.
And so we have in excess of 20 new employees since that time?
Yes. We usually make them get up and dance and do something, but so they'll be there the whole time. I don't know. But we're looking forward to it. One other update, your election update. Maybe I'll turn that over to Leslie. You want to give a quick election update, where we're at and what we have moving forward?
Sure. So our election candidate nomination period ended this last Friday. And during that time, only our incumbents, Mayor Pro Tem Dennison, Mayor Schooler, and Councilmember Abel, filed to be reelected for another 4-year term. No other interest was received during that time. Also, we have a Measure K. Council did approve to put a revenue measure on November's ballot. It was recently given the letter designation of Measure K. So that is to seek the increase of our TOT, transit occupancy tax, which is our hotel tax, from 7% to 12%.
So we'll be going back to the community. You'll recollect that now the job of the town is to ensure that the community knows what Measure K is about, to inform them and to educate them on that measure that the town council put on the ballot for November 2022, specifically to address community priorities such as public safety, 911 response, street and road damage, and care and maintenance of street and roads, as well as keeping all of our public facilities safe and clean. So we will have a number of opportunities for the public to come and learn about that, ask questions, understand what it is not, and share with them that important information. Mayor, that's all the staff comments this evening. Thank you for your patience.
Mayor, excuse me, I think the sheriff wanted to add one more thing. So.
If I can, I stand corrected. The resource fair is on August the 25th, not the 24th, up at Copper Mountain College.
On Thursday, the 25th, right?
Yes, sir, and it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize.
Okay, we'll bring it back for council member reports and comments. Councilmember Abel.
Well, again, thank you all the community for being here tonight. We really appreciate being able to get into discussions and come up with some solutions. Hopefully those were the right decisions, and I'm pretty confident it was. I want to also thank the Sheriff's Department. One of the last council member meetings, I mentioned to Captain Niles about lack of perhaps visibility on the highway with the deputies, sheriffs and so forth. And I don't know if it was coincidental or whatever it might be, but I saw more traffic officers out there in person, and it really worked with me because I slowed myself down. And I stayed slower on the highway when I saw the deputy out there. Again, I want to thank the Sheriff's Department also for being very active when school does start, that they're out there watching the crosswalks, and people see the police presence. In this day and age, people are apprehensive about their kids coming back to school and school safety. And part of school safety is getting to school and leaving school safely. And when they see a deputy there spending a little bit of time in the morning as they're arriving or as they're leaving, it really does speak volumes. And they know that we have men and women out there protecting their kids, and that really goes a long way. Publicity-wise, but also realistically, that there's a deputy on site. So thank you guys for that. And I got to see a lot of deputies at the funeral service just recently for our lost comrade and his bout, and it was really nice to see that many people come out in the community. Also, you know, the former police chief coming all the way back to pay his respects for Rick. And anyway, again, thank you so much for what you guys do.
Councilmember Droz.
Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to the 3 council members that had no one running against them. I think that's a show of confidence from our community, that they have confidence in you so much that nobody really wanted to run against you. So that really is a compliment. So congratulations on that. I'm really excited about Measure K. I think that's going to be exciting. So I can't wait to see the what do you call it? The public information about that. And I can't wait to get it out there so everybody knows what it is. I do want to mention the concert. I was at the concert and it was so much fun, the concert in the park. And when I was there with Candy, and Candy was going around, and she told me she was retiring, and she knew that was her last concert. So she was pretty emotional that was her last concert. So it was really nice spending time with Candy. And it was really nice to see all the input tonight from everybody that showed up about pickleball and tennis, and also the weeds next to the road. All the comments, we always appreciate it. So thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Lombardo.
I want to welcome Arrow and Andy as our new employees, and I want to bid Candy a happy retirement and a job well done. It's sad to see some of the family leave, but we have joy in the entering of the 2 new employees to be part of the family. And I can't get over the report we got from Paul. That is an incredible amount of inspections, and job well done. A lot of hard work there. I want to congratulate our new captain on taking his position, and I just want to speak out as a business owner. I was very pleasantly surprised. I was very surprised when I walked into my office on a non-business day, and I was greeted by a sheriff's officer that was inside my building because the door was unlocked, and he was going around testing doors, I guess, and found mine unlocked and the alarm not on. And wow. Or the alarm was on and the door was unlocked. I don't know. But at any rate, I walked in and whoo, there he is. He was very polite and inquired very thoroughly about who I was, because I was dressed as a hobo. I was doing the weeding around the office, and I probably didn't look like a business owner at that moment, all hot and sweaty and covered with dirt. So I want to thank you, though, for the very professional way you have your crew run, and they all should be commended for their professionalism. Very happy with the service we get out of our sheriff's department. Thank you very much. It was also very rewarding to see all the people that turned out today. It was surprising in a way. We thought that the tennis court was going to be a bigger, longer event than it was, and the murals thing turned out to be the big event. I'm sorry, the other way around. We thought the murals would be a little bit more of a hubbub, and the tennis court thing was supposed to be on consent agenda and would have not been a non-event, but I'm glad it was pulled and glad we had a chance to talk about it. I think it's a good fix for what needs to be addressed in the future. We need more recreation areas, and I think that we came up with a good solution. And I hope everybody can see that we all were able to discuss it in a pleasant manner, and hope everybody's satisfied with what happened. It's a good community, and we just want to make it better. So thank you for all your participation, to people out there and people online. Thank you to the staff. Oh, and a shout out to Deb. I am not always the most technically savvy, but I had a little consolation today in that Deb and I worked like devils to get me onto this program for some training that I needed to do. And I wasn't the only one that couldn't do it, but they figured it out. And it's persistence, and I appreciate that in staff. So thank you very much. Thanks for working with me to get that accomplished. Okay.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Dennison.
Yeah, thank you. I want to give another shout out to Jennifer Kuzak and Paul Hoffman for the remarkable revitalization, I would say, of the Tri-Valley Little League. Now, there's a long history in our community with Tri-Valley Little League, and it's had its highs and lows over the years, but to go from where the fields needed a lot of rehabilitation, the attendance and participation was down, and this year the comments of how wonderful the grass is, how wonderful the facilities are, and with 509 kids and 45 teams, that's quite an accomplishment that very few could do. And so I just wanted to shout out again that it's just wonderful to see that kind of participation. I grew up with Little League, so for me it was a big thing. And nowadays there was a lot of transition over to other sports like soccer, and this is nice. It's another opportunity similar to the item we spoke of tonight with pickleball and tennis. It's just more opportunities for young and old, and I'm very proud of them and all the work they've done. It's recognized. And welcome to Arrow. She was so excited when she started talking about the animal shelter, and I am so proud of her. I mean, that is just amazing, you know, someone that's in there and just another great person on the team over there. They have a huge responsibility to, you know, people's most precious thing in many cases. And you know they're in good hands. If your pets are lost, they go stray for a while, they're going to get someplace, they're going to be safe, and you know someone like Arrow is there, and they're going to work hard to get them reunited, and I think that's fantastic. Andy, I remember when he was working here, and then you know he had left and went on to other things, and welcome back. That's fantastic. We have another great employee and another team member in our community, and it's going to work out really well. And most importantly, congratulations to Candy. She's a wonderful person. When she was talking about the things that she's done with the Youth Commission, with the special events like right here in this room, my kids were there all those years. They had gotten into the town when she was here and were part of the Youth Commission. And she was always such a giving person and a great leader and someone for the children to look up to, and how she managed a lot of situations. She really left her mark on, I forget how many events that Sue had mentioned, but some of them were in the thousands. So I think it was the 5,000 letters to Santa. That's a lot of writing, but that's how she was, and she was great. And I had the opportunity to host not the last one, but the previous concert in the park, and she had told me all about the things that she was going to do. And then when she left, she goes, well, I may just come back. So we'll see how that works out. Thank you, Lieutenant, for being here and covering and making sure our community is got the public safety that it needs in place. We appreciate that while we were waiting for Captain Warwick to show up. So thank you for being here. And it sounds like there was a good thing already. The traffic looks like it's a little more patrolled, or at least visually. So little bites at a time, right?
Well, if it is, that was Lieutenant Wiebel, because yesterday was my first day officially in the seat. So it's definitely in his direction.
Perfect. Yep. Well, you guys are a good team, and that's what we really appreciate. You know, there's lots of deputies out there doing the work, like breaking into his offices and things like that. So, yeah, no, it's all good. You guys are very much appreciated. And that's all I have. Oh, one more thing. Today, I witnessed, Shane had mentioned, you know, we did have quite a bit of rain here today. There was some serious flooding. There were debris flows. There's mud in some of the roads that may be approaching a foot deep. And I had watched some of the traffic. I literally was driving some of the areas that I know that are low-lying and they're flood hazards. I was watching them shut down Yucca Mesa Road today. There at the crossing. There's some up a little bit further on the south end of town. I was watching vehicles stop, make a good decision, back up, and turn around. And I just wanted to shout out to those vehicles out there that took the time to just find a safer route. So don't try and go through those debris flows. It's not good, so thank you.
A good point. We don't really know what to do when it rains here, do we? It's
No,
just-
a lot of experience.
It just catches us by surprise, and we just don't know how to act.
I forgot what it was.
My list resembles everybody else's, but I do want to shout out to the park staff and community services staff for working with Tri-Valley Little League and making that transition over there. That's huge, and the fact that other communities are coming here and complementing our Little League fields, I mean, that's a testament to the hard work and professionalism, because that hasn't always been the case over there. That's been fields have always seemed to need attention, but now they've got it, and proud of that partnership. Welcome to the new staff, Arrow and Andy. It seems like a couple of people that are happy to work for the town of Yucca Valley, and that's good. And Candy leaving, there's somebody who just would work for the town of Yucca Valley until she's 100 if we'd let her. So I think, congratulations to her on the retirement, and best wishes there. I want to thank everybody that came for the pickleball discussion and tennis discussion. We have received a lot of letters and phone calls from a lot of people in the last week or so on that issue, and not all of it was especially complimentary, but I'm thankful that everybody could conduct themselves in a civil and respectful manner this evening as we work through that issue. So we, on both sides, you got two competing viewpoints, and you're not going to make everybody happy. But I think the spirit of compromise was apparent in the MBTA's initial recommendation, and so we just thank you for the discussion, the civil discussion on that. And on that note, the 2-year window for a pickleball solution, I think I would encourage staff to start looking into solutions, as soon as we can, because we're going to hit that 2-year window, and we might still be looking for a home for pickleball, and it could grow quite a bit by then. And again, thank you to Paul and Abbott and Associates, doing a great job, and the numbers are impressive, and I know your community service, your customer service is exceptional, so thank you for that. Welcome, Captain Warwick, and appreciate having you here. As far as the weeds on Palomar, I would encourage the gentleman to talk to staff afterwards and see what might be done on that. Councilmember Abel noted that we had attended a celebration of life for a comrade on Saturday. Rick Millard was a friend to a lot of us in the community. His service was very, very well attended, with an awful lot of positive comments and just testimony to his life. It was a life well lived, and he I think I might have this backwards, but I think it was 21 years in the Marine Corps and 19 years with the Sheriff's Department, and just a friend to everybody that ever ran into him. He was a friend. He was so upbeat and so positive and so fun to be around, and everything everybody said about him at the service was true, and then some. So I would like to, at this point, I will adjourn the meeting in his memory, and before that, I will announce that the next regular meeting of the, I guess I should say this, the regular meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council scheduled for September 6th, 2022 has been canceled due to a lack of quorum. The next regular meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council will be held on Tuesday, September 20th at 6 p.m. in the Yucca Valley Community Center Yucca Room. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting in the memory of Rick Millard.